While the Sony Ericsson glory days are well behind us, the best Sony phones can still compete with the likes of Apple, Samsung, Google Pixel, and others in the smartphone arena. Sony often releases 2 or 3 handsets annually, and the brand leans into its history of fantastic cameras as a key component for each device. We've picked out the top Sony Xperia phones, from high-end models like the Sony Xperia 1 Volt with its vivid OLED display to more affordable alternatives such as the Sony Xperia 10-4. We've got something to meet all needs and budgets. Chances are, if you're looking for a new phone, you'll want to keep it fully charged as you go about your day. We've got a list of the best wireless chargers and best power banks for you to choose from, ensuring you can keep your Sony phone charged wherever you are. Number 1. Sony Xperia 1 Volt. The big hitter of this list is the Sony Xperia 1 Volt, which is easily Sony's best overall phone in 2024. We've tried plenty of flagship devices out, but few feel as nice as this one thanks to its sturdy build and textured design. Fewer still can compete with its cameras, with Sony condensing all of its photography know-how into this pocketable device, giving you the option to leave your DSLR at home without missing the opportunity to take extremely high-quality shots. Combining a dazzling 6.5 120Hz 4K HDR OLED display and a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset and a 5000 mAh battery, we love how games look on this phone and how long we can play them for. It is worth mentioning that one of the caveats here is a slightly slow rate of charging, so be prepared to plug it in before you go to bed each night. This handset is available in 3 colors, black, green, and silver, and supports the latest Android 14 software. Unfortunately, it isn't going to go any further than that, which is a slight concern with Android 15 on the horizon. But Android 14 is still capable enough if you're not concerned about being on the cutting edge. Besides, at least you don't have to worry about any bugs with new updates. The real downside to the Sony Xperia 1 Volt is that it's incredibly expensive, going for a similar price to the Samsung S24 Ultra and iPhone 15 Pro Max. Still, we think it's right up there with both of those phones in terms of hardware and software, with the caveat of that annoyingly slow charging speed, and it's clearly the best Sony phone in town at the time of writing. Number 2. Sony Xperia 5 Volts. While most premium phones have triple camera setups these days, the Sony Xperia 5 Volts manages to outdo them with just 2, a 48MP wide lens and a 12MP ultra-wide lens. We've tested countless cameras, and the results you get from the Xperia 5 Volts are up there with newer and more expensive devices like the Honor Magic 6 Pro and Xiaomi 14 Ultra. You almost always get clean, high-definition images, whether it's in ideal conditions or low-light scenarios. Combine this with its excellent 5000 mAh battery life, which we found more efficient than that of other premium phones like the Samsung Galaxy S24 and Google Pixel 8, and a great gaming experience thanks to its powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, and you're dealing with a bit of a dark horse in the premium smartphone arena. Simply put, it might not be as well known as some of the big-name Android phones, but it's plenty capable of competing with them. There aren't many caveats to the 5 Volts, but we have to note that with only 2 years of software updates and 3 years of security updates, it's not as future-proofed as the latest Samsung and Google Pixel options. It's also not the most generous in terms of storage, with most phones at this price range offering much more than the 128 GB you're getting here. You can pop in a microSD to expand that storage, but that's an additional expense to consider if you don't already have one. Number 3. Sony Xperia 10-4. We always appreciate a solid mid-range phone, especially when it gives off flagship vibes. Not everyone can afford the sometimes extortionate prices of a brand new device, so we highly recommend the Sony Xperia 10-4. It feels very comfortable to hold, even for long periods of time, and is comfier than a lot of higher-end phones. As with other phones on this list, you get access to some fantastic photography features with the 10-4. These features double up with the 12MP wide, 8MP telephoto, and 8MP ultra-wide triple camera system to offer an experience we think is on par with that of the Pixel 7a and OnePlus 12R in terms of the best mid-rangers for snapping high-quality shots. This option also boasts a solid 5000 mAh battery that almost always gets you through the day, and a bright OLED that makes for a better content streaming experience than some flagships we've spent time with. Before moving on, we have to mention that we were left a little disappointed with the performance of the 10-4, especially when it comes to gaming. It's a solid all-rounder in every other aspect, but it struggles to keep up with phones in the same price range when it comes to running anything more demanding than your most basic mobile titles, which in all honesty isn't surprising considering its outdated chipset. It's also not the quickest in the charging department, with paltry 21W speeds falling way behind those competitors, so it's always worth taking charging equipment with you if you opt to use this phone on your travels. Number 4. Sony Xperia Pro I. Perhaps you're interested in a Sony phone with the best camera options? Well, look no further than the Xperia Pro I. With its professional-grade camera, you do need a little bit of photography knowledge to make sure this phone hits its full potential. But the telephoto lens and the choice between f/2.0 and f/4.0 apertures on the main camera make it feel more like a camera with a phone attached to it than anything else. But how long can you use this device out in the wild without needing a charge? Well, it houses a 4,500 mAh battery, which isn't quite as good as the 10.4 and the 1 volt, but still gives you about 6 to 7 hours of screen time each day, longer still without intensive use. Finally, this phone has a beautiful 6.5-inch 4K HDR OLED screen with a 120Hz refresh rate, so your pictures really pop and games look great. It only comes in frosted black, but as with other Sony phones, there's something about black Sony phones that just looks fantastic and pretty luxurious too. The downside? Well, it's expensive, but that's true of most phones that are as capable in the camera department as this one. Number 5. Sony Xperia 10 volts. If you're looking for a Sony phone with a long-lasting battery, the Xperia 10 volts is the best option. This device has a 5,000 mAh battery, which is only a little smaller than those inside the similarly priced OnePlus 12 and Google Pixel 8 Pro. In our testing, we found it to be a little more efficient, offering at least a day of charge, providing you don't spend the whole day gaming on it. As for aesthetics, you can pick up the 10 volts in black, white, sage green, and lavender. It's got a 6.1-inch screen and weighs just 159 g, which is less than other premium devices like the iPhone 15 and Samsung Galaxy S24, so it's pretty sleek and fits nicely in even the tightest pockets. We don't recommend this phone for those wanting a camera-specific device, though the tripod cameras are still decent, making this phone capable enough for selfies and pet photos for your social media. It also has a slightly disappointing 60Hz refresh rate, which obviously isn't as good as the industry leaders with their 120Hz. It's something we only really noticed in demanding games like PUBG Mobile and Genshin Impact, but it's important to note. Number 6. Sony Xperia 5.4. If a dazzling display is top of your priorities when it's time to pick up a new phone, the Sony Xperia 5.4 is our suggestion. Despite being a little older than some of the other phones on our list, we think this pick still holds up with a crisp OLED display that's perfect for a bit of mobile gaming or streaming your favorite films. Better still is the battery life. With this phone can last up to 2 days without charge if you're not using it for anything too demanding. If you are, you can soon get it back to 100% with a full charge requiring just under 2 hours if you're using all the official equipment. Throw in wireless charging, and you've got a device that is rarely going to run flat. There is one drawback though, in that the cameras here just aren't up to much. Worse still, there are plenty of reports suggesting that using the camera can lead to some issues with overheating. And considering you have to hold the device to take pictures, you can imagine how troublesome that can become.